So let's talk a little bit about logistics. Logistics scripts that I use are Igload and R3F logistics. Igload is a logistics script that allows players to drive around trucks, and with those trucks you'll have an add action that you can back up to an object such as a crate, and you'll get an add action to load the crate, which will then pick up the crate and put it into the back of the truck. Let's say we want to customize it for certain trucks or load different objects that aren't getting the add action to load into it. So what you do is you'd open the folder and then you go into this igload.sqf script. So now that we're in the Igload script, we're going to look at how we're going to customize it. As you can see here, he has quite a few different number of variables that you could edit if you wish. Most of the time though, I just leave these alone since they're not really that important to me or what I'm doing. Here we have the main chunk of what I edit. So here you have are the supported vehicles. So you have the off-roads, the vans, hemped, so those are the Blue 4 trucks, and normally that's what I would add to. So let's say I have a truck that I want to add to use Igload. What I would do is I would get the class name of the truck and then I would put it into this array as follows, and the class name would go in between those two. Now it's important to note that you need a comma separating between each class name, and then at the end there should be no comma. Some of the typical mistakes I make is sometimes I'll throw a comma at the end like that, and that will throw a script error for that array and the script will not work right. So that's for adding trucks to get the add action. Let's say I want to add cargo. This is the main chunk that you'd use if you wanted to add cargo. Now normally if it was a crate, I would find something similar that he already has in here. So let's say I wanted to add a crate to be picked up. So in the supported vehicle ammo, those crates are about the same size as the object I want to add. So then I would just come into this array and I would add it just like we did before, and then I would save it and close and go into the mission and test it, and you should be able to now load your object. Alright, so here I am demonstrating Igload, and as you can see in the top left we have an add action. I'm going to hit that add action, it's going to pick up the object and load it into my truck. And then if I want to drive it somewhere, I can. So I'm just going to drive it over here. And then I have another add action to unload it. And the object is unloaded. Now if that was a person outside the truck, you'd also get an add action at the back. They can load it up in and take it out. The next logistics script I'm going to talk about is R3F logistics. R3F logistics is basically a logistics script that allows you to take crates and put them into vehicles. It allows the capability for helos to lift vehicles. It also allows for other vehicles to tow other vehicles, such as a tank towing a truck that has lost a wheel. It also allows for the pickup of crates and statics. Statics can be picked up, rotated, and then set back down. Going inside the folder here, you'll see a lot of different folders and scripts. Most of these I do not touch or change, and a lot of it is actually coded in French, which if you look at the R3F's wiki, the creator who made it is French. The main one that I edit is the config.sqf, this script right here. So we'll go ahead and open that up. So we're in the R3F logistics config file. And if you scroll down, again, you have some global variables here. I don't edit these hardly ever. You can look at them to get a little bit more understanding of what he's doing and what you need. Down in this lower chunk is the bit that I edit the most. So let's say I have a vehicle that I want to be able to lift a crate. Correction, we have a helicopter that I want to be able to lift a crate. And the helicopter's not getting the R3F add action. Well, you'd come down to this global array and you'd add it, the class name again, to the end of this array. So I would add it like so. A comma in between, and the class name in between two strings. And again, don't put a comma at the end because it is the last element. Now if I wanted to be able to lift a vehicle that was not liftable before, I would add it to this array, which you can also see that the arrays are class named as so you could tell what it's doing. So that's for vehicles if I want to be lifted. The above two are if I want a vehicle to be able to tow or be towed, which is a cool function. Maybe you could come up with some cool missions with that. And then at the bottom here is another important one that I like to edit. This one is for the add-on vehicles that we have in our mods. You sometimes have to add it to R3F into this array so that it can carry supply boxes, such as ammo crates or whatever else, statics. And the format that you're adding to it is an array, which is the first element of that array is the class name of the vehicle that you're adding it to, and the second element of that array is the integer size that the vehicle can hold. For these values, it's recommended that you look up the R3F documentation. Normally I set it to just a large number, just so I don't have to worry about if it'll fit or not. And down here we have if the vehicle can be transported by cargo. So this would be, I would add a box, and if I couldn't load my box into a vehicle. So let's say I have an ammo box that's not loading into R3F. Well, you can come here and edit the class name of the box, or put in the class name and the size of how much it costs to load that box. And down here we have this array, which you can add static emplacements to if the statics were not movable or didn't have the add actions to move them. Although let's say I want to disable R3F logistics on a certain object, such as an H barrier or a static. What I would do is in that object's initialization box, I would write this, which is referring to the object, and then I'd write set variable, which is setting the variable of R3F underscore log underscore disabled to true, which means that the object will not be able to be moved by the player. That pretty much sums up the R3F config file. Alright, so here I am demonstrating the R3F logistics. So here, as you can see in the top left, I have three add actions. I have a take supply box, a load in, and view the contents. The take option allows you to pick it up and rotate the box, and when you scroll wheel you can see which keys do what. This is good for placing H barriers or say static emplacements. And here I'm demonstrating the cargo capacity, so if I hit the view content you'll see there's nothing in the cargo. But let's say I wanted to load the supply box up. I would hit the load supply box and then I would select the vehicle, so I'd load it into that vehicle. And there you have it, the supply box is now in the vehicle. And I can unload it on the front lines or anywhere I want. Now I will demonstrate the lift function of R3F logistics, which is again just an add action for the pilot. They choose lift, and now the object is attached to the helo. You can pick up vehicles, crates, or pretty much anything you want to put in those arrays, and bring them anywhere you want.